was so rude. Totally just shut me. They did not talk about the 5 languages of love. They did not like that
Shut
topic.
that down.
All right, see who comes on. You guys, that was so rude.
Yeah, click on your network and make sure the internet's okay.
Yeah, that's
So weird.
Hi guys. I don't know what just happened. Just Danielle, you beat Joey again.
Your video just ended.
I know, it cut us off.
Okay.
They're back. It was now. Totally mad at us. I was like, I love you, Danielle, so much. So much. We're back. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll stay back, but if we don't, I don't know what to tell you. We're at the mercy of the internet. All right. Who has read the book, The 5 Languages of Love by Dr. Gary Chapman? It's been out for years and years and years. Has anybody read it? Let me know if you have. Give me some little love and if you have. I read it. Hi, Kendall. Why did you run? Lacey, I didn't mean to right away. Computer shut us down. Doesn't like this topic. I read the book probably 10 years ago. And you read it too, right?
I have not read it officially, but when I was in graduate school for marriage and family counseling, this was a big topic and recommendation. And I just briefly went through it, but didn't read it start to finish, but I want to.
So it's a great book. You guys, it's kind of marketed as a book for marriages and relationships, but and he's done several since then for businesses and for people that are single, I think. But what he talks about with the 5 languages can be applied to every part of your life, and I'm going to show you how tonight. But it's great if you're in a marriage, if you're in a partnership, if you're in a relationship, but it's also great for your business, for your employees, for your family. You can apply this to all parts of your life, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I sent a quiz out. Did anybody take the quiz? You might not, and that's okay if you didn't. But I did it last night with, I did it, and Holly said best book. Hi, Holly. I did that quiz years ago, but last night, me and Joey and my 17-year-old son, Wade, did the 5 love languages quiz. It was super quick. I posted it in a couple of the pages today, and it was so interesting. We all did it by ourselves, and then we said, we kind of quiz each other. What do you think I was? What do you think I was? And I called Joey out right away. Joey's number 1, although very close across the board for Joey, was physical touch. So that wasn't a surprise to me. But to kind of see, I think what the biggest surprise to me was what was my lowest? What was Joey's lowest? What was Wade's? That was more of the surprise than what our highest score was. So let me back up and say that, because there's 5. Gary Chapman wrote this book. I don't want to speak for him, but he wrote this book about how we receive love. And it's called, like I said, The 5 Languages of Love. And what's interesting is how I receive love, maybe how Dee Dee receives love, or how you receive love can be different. And so by reading this book and understanding, it will help you learn how to give your partner, your sister, your brother, your coworker, if you're the boss, your employees, how to show them appreciation, because how you receive it and how they receive it is probably very different. So it was even though I read this a long time ago, when I did some research the past couple of days, I had a lot of aha moments. So we'll talk about those in a minute. But there's 5 categories. One is, why don't you get my board, Dee Dee?
Okay.
Vanna's going to get my board. But we have words of affirmation. We got quality time. And if you've done this and you know what you are, post it.
I hope they can see it.
Yeah, so we got words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, quality time, and gift giving. And I just quickly wrote out what they were, but I'll talk through them. But these are the 5 categories and for me and for Dee Dee and for Joey and for Wade, we're a lot of these. So you're going to be, it's interesting to see what your strongest one is and what your weakest one is. Okay. So thanks, Deeds. So words of affirmation is words the way you receive love. Remember that receive love is when your partner, your friend, your sister builds you up. They verbally affirm you. They're genuine. They're authentic. That you feel appreciated when they talk to you. That's words of affirmation. I was telling Dee Dee today, I took yoga this morning, and I loved my instructor. She's super sweet, but when she was giving us affirmations, she was looking away, and she was past me and looking out the window, and I said it was so disingenuous. Is that a word? I don't know.
Disingenuine.
Disingenuous?
Genuine.
Anyway, genuine. Okay. It didn't, she was so sweet and it didn't matter because I liked her a lot, but it wasn't real, right? So your words of affirmation have to be spoken from your heart. They have to be true. They have to be part of you and authentic, right? So that's words of affirmation is one. Quality time, undivided attention with someone you care about. It could be your brother, again, your sister, your best friend. It could be your husband, your wife, but it's not binging to Netflix.
Or have cell phone interruptions.
Joey and I go to dinner, and granted, we're a year and a half in, so we realize that we're still new. And I know when Dee Dee's dating, they're not, if they have their phone out when you're dating, bye, yeah, later. But so we know that we're in the new stage, but if we watch people like that around us, we're like, look at them. We've had so many occasions where they're both on their phones like this. They're together at dinner and they're both like, what? So that is not considered quality time. So if your wife is someone that really needs quality time and that's not your highest points and you're at a dinner or you're somewhere together and you're on your phone, you're ignoring her, that's not what she's wanting. That's not quality time to her. Just because you're physically in the same space does not mean that you're giving her what she needs to receive love.
And it can also be like hobbies. Like you and I can have different hobbies. And if I know that you are willing to do something I want to do that may not be something you want, that means a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and that's quality time. So it's not about how you receive what you want. It's how your friend, your husband, your wife, it's how they receive love. It takes compromise. It takes you to be very selfless. I get this word's confused. All right, so receiving gifts. All right, so when I first heard receiving gifts, I thought, well, I mean, but it's about receiving gifts with thought, right? So in my previous relationship, he showed his love with gifts. He would buy me gifts for everything, jewelry, cars, and that was his way of showing love. That was not my way. I scored highest on acts of service, although I was very close in multiple categories. But so I care about someone who shows me love through their actions. I appreciate gifts, especially when they come with thought, like a lot of meaning behind them, which Joey is amazing at doing. But I don't need a gift just because you bought me a gift. So it's interesting how that was his way of showing love. That's not my way of receiving it. So he thought it was a huge conflict because he thought he was showing me love, and yet I was like, I'm not seeing love at all. So understanding how you receive it and how they receive it is huge in your relationship and in your marriage, because you think you're doing what they want. You think you're doing what they want because you're doing how you receive it, but it's not what they want at all. So receiving gifts is gifts that are physical, tangible, but there's thought behind them. Then acts of service, which was my highest. You were pretty high on that too.
Yeah,
what were you?
Sure. My highest was physical touch and words of affirmation. And then acts of service. So acts of service is doing things you know would mean a lot to your spouse or your roommate, your child, your peer. It requires thought, planning, effort, and energy. Hi, Jake. Hi, Jake.
Oh. So that was my highest, although quality time was right behind it. But I love when Joey is so good about this. He's forever doing things that I don't expect, that he knows me a lot to me. He knows if I'm stressed, he'll come home and he'll make the house clean for me. He's very, very good about that because he knows that's important to me. I don't know that he knew for real until 2 days ago, but he knew that he could feel how I responded to him when he was very aware of my response to when he does things like that are super thoughtful. And then we have physical touch, which is a powerful vehicle of communicating love. It's just a simple touch, a simple hug. Like this. Yeah. And that was Joey's number one. Joey's number one was physical touch for sure.
Significantly.
And what was interesting as I started studying these is how one thing I talked about is if you grew up in a family that was not touchy and not feely, and you didn't have a lot of that in your life, but you marry someone who like Joey, who really needs that touch, that feel, but you've never done that in your life. You didn't grow up that way. How do you make that work? And I don't even have the answer to that question, except for being aware of how your spouse, partner what they need will help you figure out a way. And once you can't figure it out until you know it.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that they need physical touch, and knowing that that's the lowest point that you scored on your physical touch, knows that, okay, we got to figure this out.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what, like, for instance, my lowest by far actually scored a 0 on gift giving.
You did.
An
0.
absolute 0, because gift giving was not something we did in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Holidays, everything. We just didn't do that. So it doesn't have much meaning for me. And then I can recognize that I don't really tend to do that for my loved ones, which can be confusing for other people when it is something that is a big deal to them. And sometimes it can come off as if I'm being rude. But really, it just doesn't have significance to me. And so it's hard for me to do that for others or receive it.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept. It's just a different area.
Yeah. Which is so intriguing to me to really think about. When I was doing these tests with Joey and Wade, then I had Dee Dee do it a little while ago. The biggest aha moment wasn't what we scored the most on. It was what we scored the least on.
For sure.
And what we learned was, and I was doing some research on this, was that we don't. It gave an example of if you aren't, if as a service aren't big for you, and so doing favors, big deal, do favors, but your friends, that's a really big deal. Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand that how they receive appreciation, we can replace love with appreciation. Mm-hmm. And how you receive it, if you don't realize the difference in that, you're like, what's a big deal? I'm taking you to the airport. But to them, it's a really big deal. Mm-hmm. If you give an example of a sister with a brother, and they would not talk on the phone at all for months, but then when they saw each other, they had great communication. It was amazing time together. And again, that's a difference of quality time, words of affirmation, and understanding, and the differences in who you are. And because you feel neglected because he's not calling you, your brother or whoever that is, your child, your parents, to understand that they feel they have more value in different categories, helps you like forgive them. Does that make sense? Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, once you understand that they don't even realize that they're doing that on purpose. It's just that they don't even. I love when they said the example of, I didn't grow up in a touchy-feely family. We never hugged. Yet we don't understand why they don't hug us. They didn't even hug their whole life, but yet we don't understand it. For me, hugging shows that you love me. Mm-hmm. But if Joey, which he luckily he hugs me a lot, but if he didn't grow up in a touchy-feely family and he wasn't touchy, I would take it as, you don't love me. He doesn't see anything wrong with it at all, because that's not how he grew up. So these love languages, understanding what you are, understanding what your partner is, understanding what your parents are, what your children are, what your friends are, helps you communicate better, helps you appreciate better. Mm-hmm. But it does take you to get outside of your comfort zone. I was telling Joey last night, and Dina talked about it earlier. If I have a high physical touch and Dee Dee has a low physical touch, and she didn't grow up giving physical touch, how do we make that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge. I mean, and it makes me think about, like, I'm single right now, but I live with my parents. So it's like making me recognize the love language that my parents accept more. Mm-hmm. For instance, my mom, it's not quality of time, it's acts of service. So going and loading the dishwasher for her means a hell of a lot more than going out to lunch together. Mm-hmm. And
even though going out to lunch is more important to you.
To me, right. Which can be upsetting for me, but I have to recognize, and I think it's not only learning how to make it work, but also accepting it. Mm-hmm. And knowing that it doesn't mean less or more one or the other way. It's just the way we were brought up and just naturally who we are. And knowing that you can show love in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm. It is release of your power. Mm-hmm. Let me just say that. Because if especially with like her and her mother, or me, if you're in a situation with your spouse and they like it one way and you like it another, you have to let your not value, but your tendencies, how you receive, you have to let that go. Mm-hmm. If you know that your spouse or your partner receives it differently,
or your preference of it all.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's where the hiccup comes. That's where the hard part comes, because especially when times, I was talking to Joey earlier, and we were saying in our previous marriages, unfortunately, if I'd taken this test back then, physical touch would have been 0. It would have been 2, and that makes me sad. I mean, I'm not happy about that, but back in that bad place, I didn't want physical touch. And that's not, I'm not saying that as a problem of it, because if I was trying to, if you're trying to make your marriage work, your partnership work, your relationship work, you have to compromise how you do it to make your friend, your partner, your husband, your wife, to appease them. That's hard. That's hard, you guys. It's hard even more so when you're not in a good place. It's not so hard when Joey and I have been together a year and a half. We're recently married, 2-3 weeks ago now. It's not as hard now.
But I also think that's what true love is, that you're
willing to compromise.
Willing to do that if you know that it makes the other person happy.
Yeah, and Kelly, thank you, Kelly. I love that. Don't ask people to read your mind. And Gary Chapman talks a lot about that, in that we get into this place where he should know how I feel. She should know how I feel, right? How many of you guys have said that? I should have to tell them what I need. You guys
just expect them to know.
Men are from Venus, women are from Mars. My first, marriage, not good at that. This one, Joey and I are so much, we're not perfect at it at all, but we're much better at saying, this is what I need. This is how you're making me feel. And a lot of times the way he's making me feel, it has nothing to do with him. It's back those triggers from my past, his triggers from his past. But if we didn't communicate, if I wasn't honest with him, he wasn't honest with me, we would never know that. So same thing about these love languages. Now it was so fun last night. I posted it. So do it with your children. It was me, him, and Wade sat there and did it, and we guessed. It was so much fun to see and realize the differences. And what I thought Wade was, as far as the lowest, or Joey was a surprise. And it was eye-opening to realize even more so what was the least important to them, as much, because I wasn't surprised by the most important thing for the most part for them.
I think it's good too, just like when you read off A or B, you have to really genuinely sit there and think, what would I prefer? So it really helps you even narrow in on this is what I like, and this is what doesn't have as much meaning for me.
For those of y'all that didn't have a chance to look at the PDF that I posted, let me read you a couple so you know what we're talking about, because they're not some are black and white, but for the most part, we were So it's super fun to do it with somebody that you love, because to talk through it helps you process it together. So for instance, there was 30 questions. So one was, you had to circle the one you liked the most. So A, I like to receive notes of affirmation from you, from your spouse, partner. E, I like it when you hug me. You had to choose one. So do you want to receive notes of affirmation, or do you want to get a hug? You had to circle one. The next one, I like to spend one-on-one time with you. That's one option. I feel loved when you give me practical help. You had to circle one. I like it when you give me gifts. Or I like taking long walks with you. So it's really trying to figure out what is most important. So to do this together with someone in your life that's important, really, it's really eye-opening to really say, well, what would you want? And to really, it starts conversation too. Well, I don't know, in this situation, I want this. In this situation, I want this. So I challenge you to do this with your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend, or even your child. It was so fun to do it with Wade last night. But also what I realized talking to Dee Dee about is this applies to with your children, with your friendships, with your family, but also in your life, in your business life. And I was thinking about how, with my team, when I know how they receive love, which is appreciation, right? I know how to motivate them now. So if I know Dee Dee receives it one way, Dee Dee, I think more good job. If I give her a gift, she's like, okay. She appreciates my gift because she knows that it means a lot that I can give it to her, but she wants to know that I am proud of what she's doing. Another employee might just want gifts, might just want money. I need money, and I'm motivated by money, and let's go. So to understand how your team or how your coworkers are motivated and appreciated helps you be a better leader to them. So these love languages apply to all parts of your life. I mean, how have you seen it played out in your life at all?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, talk about your mom for sure.
Yeah, I think understanding my family dynamics for sure.
Your father is, what would you say?
He would be quality time and physical touch, which is polar opposite of my mom. But then, you know, as a previous manager, I could totally see, you know, how this, you know, really lines up, that I could really not only tell them that I appreciate them, but they know how authentic it is and how genuine it is. I mean, my friendships, for sure, I can know how responsive they are when I shoot them a sweet text, or I go and hang out with them even though I've been working all day and I may be exhausted, and I even communicate that, but I still show up and I spend time with them. It means a lot. But also it's helped me recognize what I did not like from previous relationships. So now I know moving forward, when I do start to date someone again, I know exactly what I'm looking for and what's most important to me. And it helps me communicate that right away, because if it doesn't line up with them or they're open to it, then I can kind of know if this is something that I want to explore or not.
And tell them right off the bat, this is what, this is how I receive love.
Right.
Yeah. My past marriage, he was, like I said earlier, he was a gift giver, which was, I mean, I'm not complaining. It was beautiful gifts, but all I wanted was quality time. All I wanted was affirmations. But he showed his love by giving gifts. And unfortunately, we didn't explore this until, I haven't done this until much later. And that's, you have to, that's why I want you guys, even those that are single, do it, figure out who you are now. All the single ladies. Danielle, where are you? Let me meet you. Yeah. So it's Gary Chapman. It's the 5 Languages of Love. It's a simple quiz. I'll post it again after this for you guys to take. But know that it can impact not just your marriages, but your friendships, your businesses, with your mother and father, with your brothers and sisters. It was so eye-opening to me when I really dug into this, to how it applies to so many areas of your life. And it's a fun exercise to do with your children, with your brothers and sisters. Get everybody to do it. It should be a Thanksgiving activity.
Thanksgiving or Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day activity, Mother's Day activity. Again, all right, so we're going to sign off here. We've been on here. Oh, see, this is my shortest one ever.
For sure. Is it because I'm on it?
No, it's because it's 5 Languages of Love, and
that's all there is.
You read the book. Although we did wait, one more thing. We talked about earlier how depending on who you're with and where you are in your relationship, how it can differ. And I thought that was super eye-opening. Like when we're talking about, how I am with one person in my life, like Dee Dee, how I am with another person in my life, I might respond differently to, like, for instance, words of affirmation, or right. Yeah. So I might, like, for Dee Dee, I might need her to say one thing to me, but somebody else has a different trust level with me, it might not be as important. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is different for different relationships based on trust and where you are in the depth of that relationship, if that makes sense.
Or like different acts of love can create more security based upon the relationship.
Yeah, let me be more specific. So, for instance, Dee and I have known each other for a long time. I know whenever I do something for her, she really appreciates it. Like, I know that in my soul. So for her to say to me, Heather, thank you so much. I mean, I'm glad she said that, but I'm like, okay, I know you do. But somebody else who I'm not sure appreciates anything that I do, I don't have that trust there, I want them to say, Heather, thank you. Even though I don't ever do anything because I want the appreciation back, but because there's a lack of trust there, or something's missing, there's a gap in that relationship, I need that person to show they appreciate me.
You need that type of validation.
Does that make sense? So it also depends on, if you're in a marriage that's starting to fall off and you are in a bad place, physical touch might not be very important to you. It really is so important to you. It's just that you don't want it. And that's a red flag. Whereas when you're new, like I am with Joey, and that's very important to us. So that doesn't mean run from it. That means you explore it more, and do this together, and don't run from it, because it's important. And it requires work, but anything that's good requires work.
Amen to that.
Okay, love you guys.
Happy Valentine's Day and
Happy-
my Galentine.
Happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you next week. Sign up for my workshop. Get curious. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
We're going to do personality tests. We're going to have more dancing.
Yes.
You don't want to miss it. Love you guys. Have a great night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Joey said amen.